Hey everyone, Steve Adubato. Welcome to a brand new podcast. I know, another podcast. There's a podcast that matters because media matters. And this Media Matters podcast, this video podcast, is produced by a new organization, a 501c3, which simply means it's a legally sanctioned, not-for-profit organization, a foundation called the Adubato Center for Media Leadership. What's it about? Media leadership, what it is, what it's not, why it's needed, why it matters. And I'm introduced two very special partners, friends, and in one case, my son, Stephen Gregory Adubato. But first, I want to introduce Usame Tunagur, who is the co-executive producer of Media Matters. Usame, before I go to Stephen, real quick, by way of background, you are not only an executive producer at our media production company, the Caucus Educational Corporation, which is affiliated with public broadcasting, a whole range of public policy programs, but you also have an academic background
in communications. I used to be a full-time assistant professor of communication at a liberal arts college called Cabrini.
You know, we're not going to come at this purely from an academic point of view. We're going to come at it from a practical point of view as well. And Stephen, welcome, son. How you doing?
Good. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're honored and proud to have you with us. Stephen has been published in a whole range of places, including the New York Times, Newsweek. Stephen, did I get that right?
Yep, that's
Newsweek.
right.
Do you admit to the New York Post? Do you admit to it? I have it over my shoulder somewhere. I know. This is a book on the New York Post for records. Were you published in a Post?
Not yet. Not yet.
I think it was the Daily News.
Yes, that's right.
Not the same publication. And Stephen, by way of background, academically, you are teaching where?
Currently teaching at Seton Hall, teaching philosophy and theology there.
And your media professional position is?
I'm an associate editor at Compact Magazine right now.
And Compact Magazine is?
Compact Magazine is a space for new thought about politics, exploring all different kinds of ideas, ranging from populism to new left, new right, trying to forge a new space within the media.
Yeah. So let's put this into context. Usame, we'll be talking a whole range of media leaders. By the way, Usame is not only the co-executive producer along with me and someone who's a commentator and expert on media leadership and why media matters. You're also pressing buttons, aren't you?
I am pressing buttons, yes.
How hard is it?
It's not hard. We're gonna get into the zone with this soon.
Oh, we're in the zone? Okay,
Yes.
so you can do two things at once and still be focused.
Yes. No, I'm totally focused on the content right now. Let's go.
So here we go. So media matters. I want to be really clear. As by way of background, and you'll go on my website, steveadubato.org. You'll see a whole range of programming there. But it's not about me, but I would say my background is in media leadership, and not just from a practical point of view, leading a media production company, the Caucus Educational Corporation, going into its 32nd year. But also my doctorate at Rutgers University, which I lied to Stephen growing up and told him it was an Ivy League school. I have a doctorate in the field of media studies from the great Rutgers University. I've taught it, I think about it, I struggle with it, try to understand media leadership. And there are a couple things that I'm particularly concerned about, and Stephen and Usame will jump in and share. First, media censorship. So interesting. People go, oh, you mean a corporation or an entity that funds you doesn't like what you did on the air and they let you know? Yeah, that's a form of media censorship. We know a little bit about that. But also, Usame, jump into this. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, established, I believe, back in the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken. It was established to regulate media, broadcast media, not cable, but broadcast media, not the internet, but broadcast media. Usame, what is the appropriate role in your view of the FCC as it relates to regulating the media, and what appears to be going on now, and what does that have to do with Media Matters?
So under normal circumstances, the expectation from an organization like FCC is to regulate what goes on broadcast. And what that is are content that goes on air age appropriate, our content following journalistic integrity, our content basically up to the level and quality that is expected of any media organization. I'm just brushstroking this, but
Right.
every now and then, if a leader of the country, if a president wants to influence, and by extension wants to either trigger direct censorship or self-censorship by media organizations, FCC can then, unfortunately, become a tool by which or media organizations are penalized. And if media organizations are penalized once or twice, then they will get into the habit of self-censorship without even FCC writing them either as a ticket, if you will, or some sort of other penalization.
Interesting, Stephen, jump in here because Brendan Carr, who is the head of the FCC, an appointee from the Trump administration, has made it clear. Stephen, I know you picked this up in the Kimmel case. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel case or Colbert, but on CBS, but I think it was Kimmel. I remember he had an interesting quote, and Usami's going to check this. He's doing 10 different things, researching as well. He said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And had something to do with Kimmel gets off the air. ABC tells him because Kimmel said something that Trump didn't like, President Trump didn't like. He's taken off the air. And then obviously he came back. But Brendan Carr at that time said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. The head of the Federal Communications Commission with regulatory, legal authority and power. What message does that send to a media organization, A, and B, what does that have to do with censorship?
I mean, the message is pretty loud and clear that unless you conform to the standards of the administration of the FCC, you better keep quiet. You better silence yourself. Um, I mean, it kind of shows the direction that we're headed in, that media is no longer supposed to convey information, convey truth to the public. It's supposed to conform to the official narrative, the narrative that's convenient for the powers that be, for the status quo, which is concerning, needless to say, because if the press isn't truly free, if media is in a space, again, for conveying the truth, then, I mean, what are we supposed to do as a society if it's, if it's not oriented towards something that is objectively true?
Well,
Can
let
I
me,
go?
yeah,
I just want to do a little factual also insertion. In first case, Kimmel case was self-censorship. It was ABC that pulled. In Colbert's case, it was the FCC that removed that episode from air so that it only aired on YouTube.
so hold on.
Colbert's
Whoa, you're talking about the episode in which Colbert did what?
Colbert interviewed. I cannot remember who he interviewed. That we have to check.
Okay, but hold on one second. But go back. When Brendan Carr said we can do this the easy way or the hard way, what did he mean? You're talking about the interview that he did with Tallarico, who was
Yes.
running for who, as we do this program after a recent primary election in Texas, he's now the Democratic nominee for the United States Senate, running
Yes.
whoever wins the Republican primary. That's not the point. When he said we can do it the easy way or the hard way, it wasn't whether it was ABC or CBS. The message that was sent from the FCC, and by the way, this could be a Democratic administration, Republican administration, happens to be this administration. The question becomes when the head of the Federal Communications Commission says we can do it the easy way or the hard way, regardless of who he said it to, around what circumstance, is he not talking about the entire media? Because if I'm not mistaken, over my shoulder, that's a Jim Acosta book who used to work for CNN, Enemy of the People. The president has called, that's why the title of the book is that, Enemy of the People. Usame, when the president says you and the media are enemy of the people, and the head of the FCC says we could do it the easy way or the hard way, doesn't matter who he's talking to or directly. What does it say to all of us?
So what happens is enemy of the people, general address. But when you pinpoint, say, ABC or CBS, doesn't matter. If CBS is under heat, NBC is also going to, for lack of a better word, get in line. So it's all
And in line
about
for what?
get in line with let's not. And, we can also bring media leadership. We can bring the concept of media economics, media ownership. When, say, CBS's ownership is now goes to Skydance Paramount.
Yes.
And if they have, if the owners have already have a lot of entanglement with the government, I do not say, I'm not saying Trump is directly owning a share, but what I say is if the owners are Ellison's, or in the other case, Bezos or Musk, and if they have to be in a good relationship with the president, because president a lot of times will also have impact in their businesses. President can make life hard for an organization like Anthropic, which is
They can approve deals, not approve deals.
approve deals, not approve deals. Like Anthropic is a good example where the military is now saying we're not going to work with you because Anthropic is saying we're not going to
Department of
allow
Defense,
you.
Pete Hegseth said, and Anthropic, right?
Anthropic, yes, exactly.
Okay, Anthropic, we're not letting you, we're not giving you information. You're out.
Yes.
Why? Because what?
We're not giving you any more deals. When that happens, and if these owners are also owning media organizations, say in the Ellison's case, they own now CBS, they're
Right.
going to directly or indirectly. I don't want to editorialize, but we
You're
all
saying
know
it could happen.
CBS 60 Minutes story on El Salvador, people that we sent to El Salvador prisons, that story was pulled at the last moment. This is a fact.
But at 1 second, at the same time, Stephen, in the last presidential election, we're talking about we're conflating, and I don't think in a bad way,
No, because they are connected.
media ownership
Mhm.
and media censorship tied. So, Stephen, I believe in the last presidential election, was it Bezos who had the endorsement of Kamala Harris pulled? Was it from the Washington Post?
Washington Post, yeah.
Washington Post. So Jeff Bezos, got a few bucks, Amazon, right? Um, he owns the Washington Post, not to mention a big percentage of their news staff is gone. They've been let go.
1/3.
1/3,
Yes.
including a lot of people who are supposed to be covering government public policy. So when Jeff Bezos, as the owner of the Washington Post, says, you know what, we're not going to do that endorsement. Are we saying, Stephen, de facto, that who owns the media company controls the media content, ergo, that's in and of itself censorship?
Inevitably, yes. But and I think we have to look at the fact that, I mean, this is becoming the norm now, that media is driven by corporate interests because corporate figures like Bezos are own these companies. And it says a lot about the fact that media is no longer driven by people who are experts within the discipline of journalism, who, have expertise in the actual work of putting out a newspaper, putting out the news. It's people who run a company like Amazon, which has nothing to do with what the Washington Post is meant to be. And I think we have to look at how did we arrive at this point? How did we arrive at someone like Bezos running a publication like the Washington Post?
So let me try this. We're in public broadcasting. You can also see I've got a million, not literally a million, but a lot of books about the media in this library we have in our home. And I picked these 4 books because they speak to me. One is Howard Kurtz's Media Circus up there. Howard Kurtz is with Fox right now. The other one is about Fox News, the fall of Fox News. Who is that? Is that yeah,
That should be Michael Wolff, Fox News.
that's Michael Wolff. That's right. And also the PBS book and the other book I mentioned about Acosta. So in public broadcasting, just play this out for a second. Uh, I'm curious about this. So the federal government, and this is not about President Trump exclusively, but there's a heavy foot on the neck of many in the media right now.
Mhm.
And the president wouldn't deny it, nor would he apologize for it. When the federal funding gets cut to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is the entity in the 1960s that was established as the way, it was really a firewall between the federal government providing direct money to public broadcasting, PBS, but they would provide money to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, who would then provide money to public broadcasting stations across the country, including what has been NJPBS, our longtime partners, owned and operated by WNET, the flagship PBS station in New York. The feds cut funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, so therefore the local public broadcasting stations no longer had federal money. Translation: is that another form of media censorship, Stephen?
I mean, it definitely is. I mean, we have to look at the fact that, again, the decisions being made are not driven by this commitment to conveying the news conveying, again, I keep coming back to this idea of dedication to the truth. Like if this is not the guiding principle, if this is not why we're in the business, then again, we lose sight of the whole point, and it gets again, decisions are driven by all other factors, mainly the bottom line, I would have to say.
Yeah, but let me play devil's advocate here. For those of us who have run, you talk about media economics. Usami and I were talking the other day about this production, and in all candor, we were talking about how we can. I want it to be stripped down, meaning streamlined, and that's why Usami's doing 8 different things. And Usami said, "What about if we bring in a professional production company and economics matter?" But the economics matter. Translation, economics always matter. So in our media organization, the Caucus Educational Corporation, we're very focused on the bottom line. Usami, fair to say we're very lean.
We're very lean. Yes, it's very fair.
However, we made it our business, no disrespect to our colleagues in public broadcasting, we made it our business not to seek direct line items from the state or the federal government. Look, we're not looking to make enemies of a new governor in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill. We're not looking to make enemies in the state legislature with our program, State of Affairs. But governors are often peeved at me for asking certain questions and following up in a certain way, including someone who's a good friend now, Chris Christie, didn't always love what I did. Usami, is it fair to say, because many believe this, that no government money should be involved where politicians are involved? If they're peeved, they pull the funding. Should all the money just be private? A and B, is there enough private money to do that?
That's a tough question because
No, but it's a real question.
it goes back to the idea of what is a public good, and do we see public broadcasting, public communication, informing the masses, informing the citizens as a public good or not? If we agree that it is a public good, then I think an argument would be made that it needs to be subsidized. It might not be fully funded with taxpayer money, but if it is not, if it becomes private, then we go back to the Washington Post question, where Washington Post, Bezos is paying. The board is saying we want to endorse Kamala Harris, but he's like, yo, I own this shop and we're not going to do that, right? And very timely, right now, we know what's going on in Middle East. United States and Israel is at war with Iran. And guess what? When they cut their 1/3 of their workforce, you know what was cut?
In the Washington Post.
The Middle East Bureau. Yes, Washington Post. The whole Middle East Bureau is right now cut. So if it hadn't been, we would have more on the ground access to what's going on so that we can have more formed opinion. Going back to your question, I think it is a fine line because we can also make the argument if Steve Adubato is working for PBS and if PBS is fully funded with taxpayer money, then you're not going to go out of your way seeking funding, and that is going to poorly reflect on some of the quality of our broadcast because you need to be on your toes seeking private funding as well. So I think it's a 50-50.
Stephen, let me ask you this, because on Media Matters, again, produced by the Adubato Center for Media Leadership, which is an independent, it's a family foundation. Stephen happens to be one of the trustees along with my wife, Jen. We decided to put private money into this, family money. That's how we started this thing. And frankly, one of the reasons is we wanted to be able to do what we wanted to do in the way we wanted to do it, hopefully as responsible and impactful. But Stephen, I'm curious about this from your perspective, because you work with a media organization that has totally private funding, right?
That's right.
Usami's made it clear what he believes the public good is. And by the way, public good is in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
That being said, Stephen, do you believe that the government, the state government and the federal government has a responsibility to fund, if not all, a percentage of public media?
I think it's a tough question.
By the way, all of our questions are going to be tough.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I mean, I think given the nature of the economy, I mean, it's, needless to say, it's really hard to pull together all the funds to run a solid outlet, whether it's on TV, whether it's a podcast like this, newspaper, whatever it may be. So given that that's the fact, yeah, I think it's in the best interest of the common good, of the public's good, for outlets like this to exist. So I think, yeah, the government should be investing in it. But as Usame is saying, there has to be this tension that's maintained between, government and private funding, which is easier said than done, of course.
It's all easier said than
And I want
done.
to butt in. I want to butt in. When
You're not
government
butting in. It's a podcast.
when government is funding it, the argument will then be, we've had this Chris Rufo and others raised it.
Who?
They said PBS, Christopher Rufo, he's like the
Yeah.
mastermind when it comes to the anti-CRT wars, anti-LGBT education. He's a big influencer in Trump's brain, let me put it that way. So he was the person who said PBS is heavily leaning on the left. So if we say a public good, public broadcasting should be funded by the government, who runs the government then can have influence. We have to have some sort of a checks and balances where if Bezos is running the country, he should not be influencing Washington Post. That's what
Well,
I'm
if
trying to say.
Bezos is running the country,
If he were running the country,
Oh,
what I'm
okay.
saying is government, whoever is in government, if government is also then funding public broadcasting, the argument will be if government is left lean, then people will say public broadcasting is also left leaning, and vice versa.
yeah, by the way, I just want to make it clear, even though that book, PBS, the PBS book is behind me, I do not work for PBS. Usame does not work for PBS. Stephen obviously does not either. We're an independent, not-for-profit organization in our 32nd year. Our funding is private funding. None of the funding comes from any state appropriation in a line item in a state budget or in the federal budget. That's by design. And again, Stephen said easier said than done. I would say, and I'm not complaining, at least half of my time is spent raising money and thinking about the budget. But let's do this. In the time we have left, a couple minutes. All of us have taught on the higher ed level. I've taught, in fact, many of the producers who work on Think Tank, State of Affairs, and One-on-One, as well as our series, Remember Them. That's all produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation. Many of them come out of Montclair State. Some of them are producers who I taught several years ago when I was teaching media and journalism there. And both of you have worked with young people and taught young people. Who the heck, given the media environment that we have just described, who the heck in their right mind would go into, Stephen, this media environment to be a media leader? Not a hypothetical question. Go ahead, Sam.
No, I mean, I think some people really have that attraction to that which is most noble about the media. I mean, this is a space where you can convey information to the public, giving power to the people, conveying the truth. There is something very noble about that. There's, some people really have a sense of a calling to this kind of work, but I also think some people just have a natural talent for media, for journalism, and that attracts them to it.
Yeah, hold on one second, though. Here's where I'm going to push back. I don't think we're going to have the luxury any longer, nor do we right now, in my view. If someone has a passion for journalism and media, it's not going to be enough. You're going to have to understand media economics. You're going to have to understand the business of media. You and I've talked about this, Stephen, many times, and Usame knows. Because I'm always saying, Usame, what's that going to cost? Can we afford it? Should we do it another way? That's why every person on our production company has 8 different jobs. Why? Because you got to be tight and lean. So, Usame, let me ask you this. I appreciate everything Stephen just said. It is noble. Is it realistic that someone could go into this industry without having a business sense? Literally, not just a business degree. I'm talking about understanding the economics of media. A couple minutes left. Go ahead.
When Stephen was aptly answering the question, I was actually thinking about how, just as you said, if I were continuing to teach in academia, I would recommend most of my students, if they're in communication, at least do a minor, if not a double major on business, understanding the money, the economics aspect of it. And definitely, it is not viable. Passion is not enough. It is already a very hard occupation. You have to have a certain desire to inform and to a good extent influence also people. But if you don't have a good understanding of business, it's not going to work.
Stephen, you buy into that?
I mean, he's right as much as I don't want to admit it, but that's the
I don't know what
reality.
you want to admit. You and I've had this conversation 100 times. I tell you, son, you got to be able to raise money. Someone says, and I'm going to get on my soapbox, but I'm going to try not to.
No, this is a podcast. We all have our soapboxes.
But Stephen, here's the thing. You're not a natural fundraiser.
No,
I am.
not at all. Yeah.
Why should you Here's the problem. I'm a natural, I don't love it, but in all candor, I know I'm good at it. You don't love it, but you care deeply about journalism and media. I'm saying to you, Stephen, that I don't believe moving forward, people are going to be able to play in this media sandbox as a media influencer, someone with impact, if they don't understand how to bring in the dollars and keep the budget tight. I know that bothers you,
That is
but do you
true.
see it what? Is there any other way you see it?
Right now, no. I mean, that's the reality. And yeah, I mean, if you want to get by in this industry, you have to learn those skills. So yeah, it's true.
I also
Yeah.
was gonna say someone like Steven, it would be ideal if he partners up with somebody who's like Steve Adubato, who is on the money raising, the fundraising
Hold on
end.
one second. Are you saying I should just fund what he does?
No, no, no. I'm saying someone like you, like he needs to team up with someone who is comfortable in the development sphere.
Yeah, I hear you, but I
He's
have.
giving me ideas. Yeah.
What did you say,
He's
Stephen?
giving me some ideas. I'll take notes.
Usami,
So as the
stop giving
producer,
him
I will,
ideas
yes, as
that
the
come out
producer,
of my pocket.
I would like to say that we have to slowly wrap up. Maybe we can leave it with the idea that in the upcoming episodes, we'll definitely cover more about issues about media economics, media ownership. But one thing that we didn't go into is social media. And that's going to take at least few podcasts to dig deep and then share our ideas.
Where are people going to find the podcast, Usami?
They're going to be able to find it on YouTube. And then slowly we're going to release it on either
Spotify? We going
Facebook.
on Substack? What are we doing?
We have to discuss. This is too soon. They might find us on Facebook, on Twitter. We might slowly go into Substack as well. Let's see. I mean, we're just starting.
And our website, which I don't know if we're going to do a post production here, and our website is Adubato Media.
Yes, AdubatoMediaLeadership.org has always been on the screen.
AdubatoMediaLeadership.org.
Yes, yes, because at the end, Adubato Media, this is the show is coming out of the Media Leadership website. But let's see. I mean, if we can debate it and we can, this is
Are you
one thing that
saying
we
we're
didn't
flying?
discuss.
Are you saying we're building the plane as we're flying it?
That's what I'm saying. And also another topic that we didn't discuss is there's a
Go ahead.
quotation from you. Media entrepreneurship is media leadership. So unless we're constantly innovating, we are not living up to the concept of media leadership. So those are ideas to brand, because I would argue, do we brand on two different websites, or do we stay on our leadership organization center and it's coming out from there? That remains to be seen.
Funny, Stephen Usami said he wasn't sure if he had much to say in the podcast. Do you think he has enough to say?
Yeah, I think he covered everything.
For Usami, Stephen, myself, and our team at Media Matters and the Adubato Center for Media Leadership. Listen, it's a pilot. We're testing things out. We'll see what kind of reaction we get, and I look forward to seeing the future. Take care, everyone, because media really does matter.